Dennis and I became crack fiends. These is not my words. These is her words. She said crack fiends. Okay? Look. Crack fiends. That's her words, not mine. That's what she said. After the album was released in August 1980, and He's So Shy took off, we sang it on NBC's The Midnight Special and for an episode of the hugely popular ABC series, The Love Boat. You know what, y'all? I don't think my Saturday was right if I didn't see The Love Boat followed by Fantasy Island, because, you know, Saturdays you could stay up. Now, if I'm wrong and The Love Boat didn't come on Channel 7, ABC, on Saturdays, y'all can let me know. But I'm sure it came on Saturdays, because basically that was like the only show that I could stay up late and watch regularly. You couldn't tell me nothing. When I grew up, I knew I was going to find my true love on the Love Boat. Soon we'll be making another run. The night before we taped the show, who showed up at my door but Jeffrey Bowen, Bonnie's husband. I hadn't seen either one since they vanished almost overnight a few years earlier, but I'd heard plenty about them, and none of it was good. Jeffrey considered himself quite the badass gangster, dressing flashy, acting tough, and talking out of his ass most of the time. Whenever the Pointer Sisters were in Philadelphia, Atlantic City, or New York, we'd invariably bump into people looking for him and Bonnie because they owed them a ridiculous amount of money. My sister and her husband wreaked havoc wherever they hung their hats. Bonnie was later sued for $500,000 by a musicians' union for failing to pay wages owed to contracted musicians. She had repeated problems with unpaid hotel bills, and her agent, Rob Cooper, ended their longtime association after she stiffed him for $2,500 in advances. In September 1981, after Jeffrey and Bonnie defaulted on a commitment to record an album for Motown, Berry Gordy Jr. slapped them with a $6 million lawsuit alleging extortion and threats to his life. What? And Barry Bedbug Bites allowed Jeffrey Bowen to threaten his life and get away with it? Girl, get out my face. His ass ain't scared of nobody but the Jesus. The suit was dismissed in 1982, but their reputation in the industry was crap. Okay, I thought so. Like, Berry Gordy? Somebody putting threats on Berry Gordy's life? As much as Berry Gordy has done to other mother hunches, you mean to tell me this ninja Jeff Bowen could just walk up and just be like, oh, Berry, I'm about to take you down, and Berry Gordy don't laugh that shit off? Nigga, you got to wait in line with the rest of the people. The fact is, I felt sorry for Bonnie and believed Jeffrey controlled her through drugs, physical threats, and his bottomless pit of empty promises. I will never be able to understand how you have that many siblings and somebody has enough gumption to threaten you. What? My brother and my sister, they got anger issues, and they just wishing a mother hunchy would just come along and say something crazy to me, because then that would give them the excuse to take all the anger that they have towards the universe on the mother that put their hands on me. Their marriage was bizarre from the start. The wedding ceremony had taken place at our folks' house in Nevada, with our mother presiding, and immediately after exchanging sacred vows, the newlyweds adjourned to the master bedroom to smoke the cracky. I'm probably the last one who ought to be casting stones about that, especially since I had absolutely no use for Jeffrey Bowen until he showed up at my house that day before the Love Boat taping and said it was time for us to smoke a peace pipe filled with crack. By then, all my good intentions about getting clean had been forgotten. Cocaine had become too expensive for my taste, but the crack epidemic was now upon us. And when what you cared about most was a decent high, it was, as Captain Steubing and his merry love boat crew might say, any port in a storm. So Bowen and I got to smoking, and after a while he came to the point. "What are you guys doing with Richard Perry anyway?" he asked, though it was more of a sneer than a question. Jeffrey and Richard had known each other going back to the Motown days, and I don't know if Jeffrey's problem with Richard dated back to then or he was just jealous of Richard's success as well as ours. By that time, he had produced 2 albums for Bonnie, and both of them had gone nowhere, despite ranting that Bonnie would outshine us all one day. Even in my stoned condition, it was clear that making peace was the last thing on Bowen's mind. But I put up with his bluster until the crack ran out. Ain't that like a pipehead? Them pipeheads ain't shit. If he even half seriously entertained the notion that we'd desert Richard and throw in with him, he was suffering from terminal self-delusion. After Jeffrey finally slunk away at dawn, I was in a pretty sad shape. Okay, what I want to say is, Miss Ruth, why in the hell is you always with one of your sister's dudes, girl? First you married June's boyfriend, girl. Now you over here smoking the crack with Bonnie's husband, girl. I was spiraling down from the crack high, and if given a choice of singing on the Love Boat or throwing myself overboard, it would have been no contest. But I managed to get through the taping. Hold on. You trying to tell me that one of my favorite episodes of the Love Boat being when the Pointer Sisters was on there singing "He's So Shy"? Ruth was fucked up. Is that what you trying to tell me, Miss Ruth? God damn. That was like one of the most epic episodes. He's so shy, so good looking, he's so shy. By this time, Dennis was back with the Temptations after they booted him a few years before, and the group had returned to Motown after the 2 albums they'd done for Atlantic quickly deep sixed. It was a point of pride for Berry Gordy to woo them back to the label where they had both achieved greatness. When Dennis turned up again, it took about a nanosecond for us to take up right where we'd left off. Getting good and loaded. One day I withdrew a mess of money from the bank and bought about 20 grams of crack. I didn't mess around. I bought in bulk. Then I purchased a beautiful Gucci briefcase and stashed the crack and remaining cash inside. That evening, I brought out the briefcase, opened it, and watched his eyes damn near pop out of his head. Then I went for the kill. "Why don't we just go to Vegas and get married?" I purred in my most seductive voice. So you got Dennis the Edwards right there. Half the suitcase, Gucci suitcase, is filled with the cracky, and the other half is filled with money. You got a crack addict right there. And you gonna ask him, "Let's go get married." Not only will he marry you, girl, but he'll marry that Gucci briefcase if you let him have what's inside of it. Okay. He shrugged as if I'd asked if he wanted to watch TV. We checked into a seedy motel near LAX and smoked crack until the break of dawn, then hopped into a cab to catch our early flight to Vegas. The next morning, December 21st, 1980, we headed down to the Justice of the Peace and tied the knot. The honeymoon of Mr. and Mrs. Dennis Edwards lasted about as long as one of our crack highs. The marriage itself, maybe 6 months. We moved into a lovely home in Burbank after our nuptials and proceeded to turn it into our personal garbage dump. I guess when you performing and smoking crack, you really just don't have time to clean up. I don't even understand why they didn't have somebody there to help them clean up. But she said what she would do, like Bobby and Whitney, like the Bobby Brown movie that we saw on, I think it was BET. I could pretty much see how what she's saying is true. Because if all you do is just go to the master bedroom and smoke the cracky, okay, and you don't come downstairs for nothing but to get something to eat or drink, the rest of the house don't matter. But she said that when a part of the house got junky, they just wouldn't go in there no more. I ain't going in there. But the only place I don't touch is the basement or the family/conversion room. I don't know what you call that shit. Where she is in her bathroom. And I take that back, because if I feel like going in her bathroom and taking a shower or one of them soaking bathtubs, I'll do it. I take it back. But I don't really mess with her basement unless I'm taking trash down to the garage. But I be goddamn if it's a place in my house that I don't pay attention to, because I be too scared that some kind of critter gonna come in my house, make a nest, and then I'm gonna walk up on that bitch. Okay, and then be having the itchies and the scratchies. You mean doing dishes, tidying up, that was for normal people. And the norm for us was getting and staying stoned as much as possible. When the Temptations came over to the house, we never even bothered cleaning up for them. We didn't care. Our solution was to just shut off parts of the house as they became unlivable. It got so bad that we had a massive invasion of rats. See? That's what I'm talking about. You can't not go into places in your house because critters can grow in there and cultivate. Although, frankly, I'm not sure if it was an actual infestation or just a manifestation induced by the crack. That's how crazy it was. Dennis and I became crack fiends. These is not my words. These is her words. She said crack fiends. Okay, look. Crack fiends. That's her words, not mine. That's what she said. Dennis and I had become crack fiends, smoking almost 24/7. I was right there with him most of the time, keeping up a pretty blistering pace, if I say so myself. Soon Dennis was once again on the outs with the Temptations. The other guys had grown tired of him constantly missing rehearsals and group meetings and showing up for concerts looking way worse for wear. Now dig this, fun fact. He was fined so much that the amount surpassed the tally racked up by his predecessor, David Ruffin. Temptations gatekeepers Otis Williams and Melvin Franklin finally had enough when they learned that Jeffrey Bowen had secretly approached Dennis about doing a solo album. He was all for it, of course, and started recording Wings of Love while negotiations with Motown were still ongoing. Dennis completed the album and it was an absolute masterpiece. The only problem was he ended up demanding too much from Motown and the project was shelved. Then Otis and Melvin booted him out of the Temptations. You getting on our nerves any fucking way. Dennis didn't much care. That was the beauty of freebase. It cured all your ailments and made you forget all your problems. Dennis, Crack, and I were a steady threesome. If we weren't working, we could freebase day and night, and frequently did. In addition to the obvious side effects, paranoia, psychosis, sensitivity to noise and light, irritability, and suppression of appetite, the drug did some serious physical damage. The crack infected my gums and sucked all the calcium out of my teeth. Is that why the crack beat? Is that why they don't be having no teeth in their mouth? What? Baby, the way Miss Ruth is teaching me the facts of life. The crack infected my gums and sucked all the calcium out of my teeth. And I had to have a total dental reconstruction. Dark bags formed under my eyes and my skin turned dry and itchy. Scariest of all were the cardiac palpitations. My heart would flutter nonstop, and I'd have trouble catching my breath. But none of that even slowed us down. One time, the glass pipe burned Dennis's leg bad enough to leave a permanent large scar. I don't think he even flinched. It didn't take long before Dennis started disappearing for days on end. When he went out on tour, I got reports he was causing problems, if he even bothered showing up for gigs at all, and that he was seen consorting with groupies. Let me be real here. I don't think Dennis and I would have ever gotten together in the first place had it not been for drugs. What? Girl, that's Dennis Edwards. Now, I don't know if I would have married and had a baby with him, but I would have surely gotten to bed with him. He was good to all of my sisters, especially June, and we had a lot of things in common, chiefly the music. But we ended up as was drug buddies, no more, no less. Maybe we could have been good friends and even sustained a long-term marriage as healthy as the next person's. But the cocaine and crack smashed any prospect to that or to hell. I definitely had my own issues, and he sure had his. Dennis was an only child who was spoiled by his mother. He was naturally selfish and didn't like to share anything, especially his dope. He felt he never had to answer to anyone, including the guys in the Temptations who gave him a hand up in the business. At the heart of it all was the fact that Dennis was insecure and couldn't deal with success. And really, was that so surprising? Take a young, poor boy from the country and throw him into a goldfish bowl situation where he's constantly worshipped and scrutinized, and that'll mess with his head big time. I don't care who you are or what your family background is. Fame is a bitch and can and will take you out unless you're constantly on guard. According to the state of California records, we were officially divorced in 1983. I looked it up. At the time, I was too out of it to know or care. Brace yourself now for the following announcement.